The note under the table 8. 6 months before her introduction to our home was not an entrance, but an appraisal. Daniel, my son, the heart surgeon, a man who could navigate the labyrinth of a human heart but was hopelessly lost in the corridors of his own grief, brought her for Sunday dinner. He had the look of a man who'd found a priceless artifact in a dusty attic. "Mom, this is Celia." She stood in my foyer, a silhouette of understated elegance against the warm clutter of family photos. She wore a dress, the color of slate, and her handshake was cool and dry. Her eyes, a pale, intelligent gray, did not look at me. They assessed me. They inventoried the worn Persian rug, the slightly off-center landscape painting, the faint watermark on the ceiling from the old leak. "Eleanor," she said, her voice a smooth contralto, "your home has character, a lived-in patina." It wasn't a compliment. It was a diagnosis. During dinner, Leo, who was carving a fortress of mashed potatoes, dropped his fork. It clattered loudly on the old oak. In a sudden quiet, before anyone could speak, Celia made a soft, almost imperceptible sound. *TSK*. Not of annoyance, but of disappointment. As if a priceless vase had a hairline crack she'd only just noticed. Later, as she admired Maria's collection of blue glass in the cabinet, she turned to Daniel. Such poignant sentimentality. But collections need editing. Daniel, clutter distracts from the truly valuable pieces. Daniel nodded, mesmerized. I felt a chill, like a door to a cold room had been opened somewhere deep in the house. The first note came a week later, on cream paper, in elegant, anonymous script, slipped between the pages of my gardening journal. *Observed chlorotic striping on your rosa piece. Likely magnesium deficiency. Consider targeted treatment. An admirer of your garden. My piece, roses, Maria's favorites. Were looking sickly. A part of me was impressed by the sharp eye. A larger part was deeply unnerved. Someone was watching my garden closely. I showed it to Daniel. He smiled, squeezing Celia's hand. "See? She's already looking out for you. She's incredibly observant." Celia gave a modest shrug. "I simply notice details. Daniel, it's my profession." Her profession. She was a curator and acquisitions expert for the Vance Gallery, specializing in modern art and rare artifacts. She spoke of provenance and narrative value, and removing contextual clutter to reveal the essence of the piece. I began to feel that my family was being appraised for acquisition. The roses died, not a gentle withering, a sudden, violent death. Leaves blackened overnight, stems collapsing into full-smelling mush. The gardener found traces of a potent, specific herbicide, almost like a professional-grade weed killer, he muttered, baffled. But who would? I knew. The note hadn't been advice, It had been a receipt. The provenance 3 months before. Celia's integration was seamless. She didn't try to be a mother to Leo. She became his curator. She replaced his picture books with art history volumes for children. She brought him a Cristo geode instead of a soccer ball to inspire for natural geometry, she explained. Leo would hold the cold, beautiful rock, then silently retrieve his worn, squeaky red toy car, its paint chipped from love. Her true masterpiece was her work on Daniel. She didn't comfort his grief. She framed it. She called Maria your beautiful, tragic first chapter. She spoke of their future as a bold, new collection. She was editing Maria out of our story, not with erasure, but with careful reinterpretation. And Lucy, my sweet, fierce Lucy, my adopted daughter, who had been our rock after Maria's death. Celia began a subtle, vicious campaign of provenance. She'd forget to invite Lucy to dinners. She'd reinterpret Lucy's jokes as barbed comments. She'd sigh and say to Daniel, Lucy's attachment to you is so intense, almost pre-modern in its lack of boundaries. I saw Lucy shrink, week by week, her vibrant light dimming under Celia's relentless, polite shadow. One night, Lucy came to me, her eyes redrawn. She's making me a ghost in my own family, Betty and Daniel. He just doesn't see it, or he doesn't want to. The second note was more direct. I found it in Leo's school backpack, tucked inside his lunchbox, a printed, highlighted abstract from a medical journal. Asterisk dot dot. Severe anaphylactic reactions can be triggered by aerosolized protein particles. In a case study, a child with known shellfish allergy suffered a near-fatal event from steam released during the sautéing of shrimp in an adjacent kitchen area. My hands shook so badly the paper rattled. This was not common knowledge. This was a niche, terrifying bit of medical arcana, a loophole in our safety net. I confronted Celia in her pristine, white and white apartment. She took the paper, her brow furrowing with what looked like sincere concern. This is horrific. I came across it while researching air quality standards for the new gallery ventilation system. It must have gotten mixed in with Leo's things. The thought that you would believe. She let her voice break beautifully. I would never endanger a child. My work is about preservation. She was so convincing. She made me feel like a monstrous, suspicious old woman. I apologized, and in doing so, I handed her another piece of my power. The wedding planning was her grand exhibit. She chose the Modern Arts Museum, a blank slate, she called it. The menu was deconstructed nostalgia. She interviewed wedding planners like they were applying for a cabinet position. She was not planning a celebration. She was constructing an environment. At the final tasting, I witnessed a chilling exchange. The chef, Marco, presented a scallop on a sea urchin foam. "For the child's plate," Celia said, her voice clear as ice. "You will use a separate kitchen, not a separate area. A separate asterisk kitchen, asterisk with separate ventilation. My fiancé's son has a lethal asterisk airborne asterisk shellfish allergy. A single molecule could kill him." She stressed the word asterisk, airborne asterisk. She looked at the scallop not as food, but as a bioweapon. Marco, a giant of a man, seemed to shrink. "Of course, Miss Vance. It will be as you say. I will initial every allergy ticket," she continued. "I will personally inspect the line. There will be no room for interpretive error." Her eyes flicked to me as she said, "Interpretive, a challenge, a promise." That night, I dreamed of roses choking on poison air. The exhibition, the wedding day, the museum's great hall, was a cavern of white, no flowers, only sculptural ice forms that melded slowly, dripping into lead channels, a commentary on impermanence. The program said. The string quartet played something that sounded like anxious birds. It was breathtaking, and it froze the soul. Isa tate belate with Leo and Lucy. Lucy was a specter in pale blue. Leo had his red car, rolling it back and forth, its squeaky wheels the only honest sound in the room. Asterisk, vroom, vroom, vroom. Asterisk, a tiny engine of normalcy. Daniel looked like a man standing before a painting he'd been told was a masterpiece, trying desperately to feel its greatness. Celia was the masterpiece. In a sculptural silver dress that looked like liquid metal, she moved through the crowd. She wasn't a bride. She was the docent guiding guests through the exhibit of her own triumph. The first course arrived, a transparent sphere of cansum, floating with a single edible flower. Leo's came in a different colored bowl. So far, safe. Then, the quartet paused. The museum director tapped a mic. And now, the main composition, pan-seared local sea bass, with a coastal nage and foraged herbs. Asterisk coastal dot asterisk. The word was a needle in my heart. It was then that Leo froze. His little car skidded to a stop. All the color drained from his face, leaving his freckles like stark islands on a white sea. His breathing hitched a small, terrifying sound. He turned to me, his blue eyes wide, with the knowledge no child should possess. He didn't speak. He simply reached out, his small hand clamping around my wrist with the strength of a drowning man. His fingers were ice. Grandma. It was less a word than an exhalation of pure terror. My love, what is it? Is it your throat? Your chest? He shook his head, a frantic little motion. His gaze dropped to the floor. Then, With immense effort, he lifted his eyes back to mine. He leaned in, his lips almost touching my ear. His whisper was the coldest thing I have ever felt. "You didn't look under the table." The world narrowed to a tunnel. The avant-garde music, the clink of crystal, the murmur of cultured voices all faded into a distant hum. There was only the pounding of my own blood in my ears, and the absolute dread in my grandson's eyes. Slowly, as if moving through deep water, I bent. The stiff silk of my dress whispered. I gripped the heavy, starched linen of the tablecloth. I lifted it. The space beneath was a pool of shadow, smelling of floor polish and dust. There, placed with geometric precision parallel to the table leg, as if it were part of the installation, was a single sheet of cream-laid paper, identical to the rose note. My hand did not tremble as I reached for it. My fingers were steady, numb. I retrieved it. It was cool to the touch. I unfolded it, the crisp sound like a bone snapping in the quiet beneath the table. The elegant copper plate script flowed across the page. It was not rushed. It was a final draft. Chef Marco, final directive for Table 8, Course 3. Asterisk for the child's sea bass. Apply the sherry lobster reduction batch number 2 from the reserved stock as a finishing glaze. This is a specific, curated flavor profile requested by the family patron. Ensure integration is complete and visually seamless. Asterisk asterisk. The standard allergy alert ticket for this guest is hereby superseded by this instruction. Asterisk asterisk. Initial confirmation required at the pass before service. Asterisk C Vance. Asterisk it was signed. Initial confirmation required. She wanted a record, a chain of custody. This was not a crime of passion. It was a procedural execution, a clinical deconstruction of a life, a white-hot fury, pure and clean, burned through the numbness. This note wasn't a secret. It was a label. She was tagging Leo, my beautiful, messy, loving boy, as a flawed piece to be removed from the collection. And she was leaving the tag for me to find. A final, contemptuous private viewing for the old curator before the piece was taken away forever. I looked at Leo. He was staring at me, his little body rigid, waiting for the world to end. I leaned over and kissed his forehead, my lips lingering on his cool skin. "My brave boy," I whispered, "stay with Aunt Lucy. Do not touch your fork. Do not touch your glass. Do not breathe too deeply. Promise me." He gave a tiny, jerky nod. I caught Lucy's eye. In her gaze, I saw the same hollowed-out fear, but beneath it, the first spark of defiance. I pressed the note into her palm, folding her fingers over it. I gave a single, sharp shake of my head. Asterisk, the plan has changed. Asterisk, her eyes widened, then hardened into chips of flint. She pulled Leo into her lap, wrapping her arms around him, tucking his head under her chin. She became a fortress. I stood. My chair made no sound on the polished concrete. I did not look for Celia. I had a performance of my own to stage. I walked toward the kitchen, my heels clicking a deliberate rhythm on the stone countdown. I passed the weeping ice sculptures. I passed the head of museum security, a man named Robert with kind eyes, to whom I'd spoken earlier about a potential family disturbance. Our eyes met. I gave a nearly imperceptible tilt of my head toward table 8. He nodded once and subtly touched his radio. The kitchen doors swung shut behind me, muting the wedding's din. The heat and chaos hit me like a wall. I found Marco at the pass, his face slick, shouting orders in rapid Italian. "The sea bass for table 8, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. He jumped, turning. "Signora Williams, it is here. It is safe." He pointed to a pristine white plate holding a fillet of fish, plain, with a few steamed vegetables, cooked in a separate pan in the staff kitchen upstairs. I swear on my mother's soul. The reduction, batch number 2. His face paled. He pointed a trembling finger to a small silver saucepan on a back burner, kept apart. It simmered, a rich, amber liquid. The smell of lobster and fortified wine was nauseatingly strong. "Show me the allergy ticket." He fumbled in a stack of slips, pulling out a bright red one. "Severe shellfish allergy, airborne risk." And in the corner, in that precise script, CV, she had seen it. She had acknowledged the death sentence. Her note, the one that overrides this, She took it back after I initialed it. "For the file," she said. My suspicion confirmed. The only copy was in Lucy's hand. Celia had insulated herself, leaving Marco holding the spoon and me holding the grief. I moved closer, lowering my voice to a venomous whisper. "Marco, listen to me. You will serve that safe plate. But first, you will take a clean spoon. You will dip it in that poison, and you will hold it over Leo's food. You will let one single drop fall onto the rim of his plate. You will make sure everyone at table 8 sees you do it. You will make sure Asterisk sees you do it." His eyes bulged. Madonna asterisk. "No, I cannot." "You will not poison him," I hissed, the full force of my fury in my gaze. "You will perform. You will give her the climax of her exhibit, or I will walk out there right now and tell everyone you are her willing accomplice. Your name, your reputation finato asterisk." I saw the calculation in his eyes, fear of me, terror of her, the ruin of his career. He swallowed hard and gave one stiff, agonized nod. The unveiling eye returned to the table. My heart was a wild drum against my ribs. The servers began their procession. Marco emerged, his face a mask of professional calm. He served the other guests, then approached Leo. He placed the perfect, safe plate before him. Then, with a showman's flourish, he produced a small silver spoon. He dipped it into a tiny wrap. He held it aloft, a gleaming drop of amber liquid clinging to its tip. I did not watch the spoon. I watched Celia, her head turned, a predator sensing movement. Her gaze locked onto our table, not on Leo, not on the food, on the asterisk spoon, asterisk on the drop. There was no concern on her face, no anxiety, only a deep, rapt fascination. Marco lowered the spoon, let the golden drop fall. It landed with a tiny, almost silent asterisk plink asterisk on the white china rim of Leo's plate, where it quivered, a tiny, poisonous jewel. And then Celia smiled. It was not a quick, nervous twitch. It was a slow, profound, and utterly asterisk satisfied asterisk smile. It began in her eyes, a spark of triumph, then spread to her lips, curving them into a perfect, beatific arc. It was a smile of an artist who has just applied the final, perfect brushstroke. The smile of a curator who has just hung the piece de resistance. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated victory. It lasted only 3 heartbeats before she composed her features back into serene bridal grace. But I had seen it. That smile was her signature on the crime. It was more damning than any note. I stood. My movement caught the eye of the cellist, a young woman I'd spoken to earlier, slipping her cash with a simple request. When I stand, stop playing. I raised my hand, just slightly. The cellist drew her bow across the string in a long, shuddering, dissonant wail. The sound was like a soul being torn. The music died, screaming. Every head in the white cavern swiveled. Daniel looked up, confused. Celia's face was a perfect mask of polite, slightly exasperated inquiry. "Forgive this interruption," I said, and my voice, though aged, did not waver. It carried, clear and cold, to the farthest wall. "Before we continue, a matter of provenance must be settled. Celia, you are an expert in authenticity. Can you authenticate an intention?" I held the cream-laid note aloft, like a priest raising a sacrament. "This document, in your hand, orders the chef to add lobster reduction to my grandson's food. It knowingly countermands a severe airborne allergy alert that you yourself personally initialed." A gasp swept the room, a rustle of expensive fabric and shock. Celia's laugh was a light, tinkling bell. "Eleanor, my dear, the weight of this day, the memory of your loss, it has woven monsters from the shadows. That is a pathetic forgery. Or poor Marco misunderstood his instructions. The heat of the kitchen." I turned from her. I looked only at my son, Daniel. The peace roses, The medical article. The slow erosion of Lucy from your life. This, I shook the note. The paper crackling in the silence is not an isolated act. It is the final exhibit in a year-long retrospective of malice. She has been curating the dismantling of this family, and when she believed her masterpiece was complete, she smiled. Daniel's face was a landscape of crumbling certainty. Celia, the mask didn't crack. It shattered. What lay beneath was not anger, but a cold, disdainful fury. The polished curator vanished, replaced by something sharp and clinical. "You credulous fool," she said, her voice losing its melodic quality, becoming flat and hard. "Can't you see? Your mother is a dilapidated archive, terrified of being catalogued and stored away. She's fabricating evidence to preserve her crumbling narrative. She'd rather burn the new collection than see it hung." Her words were ice picks, chipping at the memorial of our shared past. Then Lucy stood. She had been so quiet, so still. Now she unfolded herself, placing Leo gently behind her. She held up her phone, her thumb trembling on the screen. "I've been recording," she said, her voice quiet but piercing, "since Betty came back to the table." She tapped the screen. Celia's voice, crisp and venomous, filled the hall. Her crumbling narrative. She'd rather burn the new collection. Lucy tapped again. A different audio, slightly muffled Marco's voice, choked and desperate, captured as he walked back to the kitchen. "Santo cielo las pasa." The bride's note was real. She wanted me to kill the boy. I have the ticket she signed. She is not a woman. She is a concept of evil. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the silence of a vacuum, of space where sound cannot live. Celia went perfectly, utterly still. Not a blink, not a breath. She was a statue in her silver dress. It was then that security chief Robert stepped forward to police officers appearing at the kitchen entrance. "Ms. Vance, we've secured your laptop from the bridal suite, as requested by the authorities. They are particularly interested in a folder named Legacy Acquisition. Specifically, a file labeled Phase 3, Consolidation and Pruning. Her digital journal, her curated plans." Her composure didn't break into hysterics. It resolved into a sneer of pure, undiluted contempt. She looked at us, at Daniel, at me, at Lucy shielding Leo as if we were insects on a specimen board. "You sentimental ants. Asterisk," she spat, the word hissing in the quiet. "You cling to your dirt and your damage and call it love. I was offering elevation. I was going to prune the weak branches, archive the sentimental clutter, and build something pure. A legacy of taste and order." He needed a gallery, not a nursery full of noisy, broken toys. She was shouting now, but it was a cold shout, a lecture delivered to idiots. You've won nothing. You've just chosen to stay in your beloved, musty little museum. Enjoy the dust. As the officers led her away, she didn't look back at Daniel. She looked at me, and she smiled again. That same satisfied smile. It said, "Asterisk, you may have stopped this exhibit, but you are still surrounded by my walls." Asterisk epilogue, the restoration, a work in progress. Asterisk asterisk, the police found everything. Her journals were not a diary. They were a curator's notes for a hostile takeover. A 5-year plan with timelines, risk assessments. Leo's allergy was listed under liability, remediation options, and asset flows. My eventual declining health, Lucy's emotional instability, Leo's accident-prone nature, all were factored in as variables to be managed or removed. It was so cold, so logical. It was almost more horrifying than any crime of passion. Daniel broke, not dramatically, but completely. The man who could hold a beating heart in his hands could not hold the knowledge that he had invited the wolf to the crib and praised its coat. He moved through the house like a ghost, flinching at Leo's touch, unable to meet Lucy's eyes. The guilt was a shroud he could not remove. The one who did not break was Lucy. The woman Celia had tried to erase became our restorer. She did not ask. She simply was asterisk. She moved in, not as a guest, but as a cornerstone. She cooked bland, safe foods Leo would eat. She sat with Daniel in the dark living room at 3 a.m., not speaking, just sharing the terrible silence. She took Leo to a child therapist who specialized in trauma, and she went to her own. She washed the dishes, paid the bills, and slowly, brick by painful brick, began to rebuild a shelter around the shattered remains of our family. I watched, I helped where I could, but I knew this was their journey. My role as the old curator was shifting. The healing was not linear. It was a spiral. There were nights Leo would wake screaming, not from nightmares of monsters, but from nightmares of the shiny lady's smile. There were days Daniel would lock himself in his study, the sound of his muffled sobs seeping through the door. There were moments Lucy would sob in the shower, the water hiding the sound of her exhaustion. But there were also new sounds. The sound of Lucy patiently helping Leo with a model rocket in the backyard. Her laughter when it tipped over. The sound of Daniel. One evening, tentatively asking Lucy about her day, a normal, mundane question that was a seismic event. The sound of the three of them watching a silly movie together. A collective chuckle that didn't quite ring true yet, but was trying. Then, one night, we were eating. It was spaghetti, a messy, saucy affair. Leo, now 8, was trying to twirl it like Lucy, getting more sauce on his chin than in his mouth. He looked at her, at the patient, amused smile on her face as she showed him again. He put his fork down. The room was quiet. He looked at Lucy, his gaze clear and serious. "Aunt Lucy, yes, my love." I'm glad the shiny lady is in jail. Our family is sticky and loud and sometimes sad. But it's our asterisk museum, and I like it. The silence that followed was not the old, grieving silence. It was a fertile, tender quiet, full of unspoken things beginning to grow. Daniel stared at his son. He looked at the sauce on the boy's chin, at his earnest eyes. Then his gaze traveled to Lucy, who had tears silently tracing down her own cheeks, her hand frozen in midair. I saw the exact seismic moment, the moment the scales fell from his eyes, not with a crash, but with a gentle, devastating click. He saw not the adopted sister, not the loyal friend, but the woman who had stood in the ruins of the life he had almost allowed to be demolished, and had chosen every single day to rebuild it. Not for glory, not for acquisition, but for love. He didn't speak, he couldn't. He simply reached across the table, through the wreckage of the meal, through the years of his own blindness, and took Lucy's sauce-smeared hand. He held it. He held on as if it were the only true thing he had ever touched. My revenge was not Celia's arrest. That was merely a legal formality. My revenge grows in my garden. It is a new peace rosebush, a hardy, rebellious cultivar I planteth myself. Its blossoms are not the pale, delicate pink of the old ones. They are a deep, violent, almost bloody crimson. They thrive. My revenge is the sound that fills my house now. Not the sterile quiet of a museum, but the beautiful, chaotic symphony of a family mending, the bang of a rocket launching, the hiss of the shower after a long day, the soft, murmured conversations late at night, and the deep, honest laughter that is finally, tentatively, beginning to find its way home. Celia believed in perfect, controlled beauty, in the removal of flawed pieces to strengthen the whole. She failed to understand the most profound one this old curator finally learned. The most exquisite beauty is not found in the flawless piece alone. It is revealed in the golden glow of the kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The breakage and repair become part of the object's history, making it more valuable, more unique, more breathtakingly beautiful than it ever was before. We are all kintsugi now. Our cracks are visible, and they are filled with gold. And in this new, mended light, we are finally, truly, a masterpiece. If this video added the value in your life, then like the video, and subscribe the channel and press the bell icon for more interesting videos like this. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.